Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wareham Planning Board Workshop, Monday, December 19th, 2022. We will open the meeting with our roll call. Sherry Quirk.
Here.
Mike Baptiste.
Here.
Jane Gleason.
Here.
Sam Corbett.
Here.
Carl Schultz.
Here.
And the chair, Michael King, is here. Before we start with preliminary business, we would also like to announce and call the meeting for the Wareham Redevelopment Authority. So I guess we would start with the roll call.
Oh, that's right. We have Dan Butler, Judy Whiteside, and Ken Buckland, all members of the Redevelopment Authority.
Okay. Thank you for attending tonight and taking part in the workshop for the work that needs to be done on the preparation for town meeting.
Thank you, Mike.
So might as well start with the presentation. Ken,
Are you going to
you
skip
want
the
to start
minutes?
that?
Are you going to do the minutes and get that taken care of?
Did you read them?
Yes.
Oh, thank God. Did everybody get to read the revised minutes for the 28th?
Yes.
Everybody's good? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the planning board meetings for 11/28/2022. Do I have such a motion? As written, as revised. Whatever they are. You have them.
It's revised. I don't have them.
I handed them to you. They're right there. I told you I handed them to you. So, motion to approve the minutes as revised for 11/28/2022. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Motion by Jane Gleason, seconded by Mike Baptiste. All in favor? Sherry?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Sam?
No.
Carl?
Can I ask Mr. Corbett his reason for voting no? I may support
Certainly.
it depending on his reason.
Thank you for what you sent me on the open meeting. The law specifically states not a transcript. I'm sorry. Law specifically says it should be a transcript, and ours goes back and forth. He said, she said, he said, 8 pages. I don't think that's minutes. I think that's more of a transcript than they are minutes. And I think, look at other committees and the way the law is written. I'm on 3 different committees. We'll have 3-hour meeting, we'll have a page or 2. We have 8. I just think we need to find out what's correct.
I agree.
Okay?
But
That's why I'm
I don't
opposed.
think that makes these any less relevant. It just makes them...
It's making a point, that's all, Mike.
Yeah, no, I understand. He asked, you said.
Well, and now I understand why he said no. I agree and support Mr. Corbett's statement, and I do think we need to make improvements in our minutes.
Condense, yeah.
But that being said, I'll vote yes.
You'll vote yes. Chair votes yes. So, 3, 4, 5, 5-1-0.
We will have meeting minutes for tonight as well, right? Is that correct?
We will have meeting
Yes, we
minutes
will.
for tonight,
Yeah.
correct. Okay, so meeting minutes for 11/28/2022, approved 5-1-0. And we will now move on to the presentation from the WRA.
I thought I'd start off with a presentation by the town planner of the zoning bylaws, generally the structure of them and what you're up against in terms of amending them. So I put together a couple of slides that for discussion purposes. So the zoning bylaws, there are 16 articles and 2 appendices in them. They're not all of equal importance. Article 1 is general provisions. It's just a confirmation that this is the zoning bylaws. Article 2 is a list of the zoning districts. It's it gets expanded as the zoning districts get added onto the list. Article 3 is an important one because that's a table of uses and permissions. It has certain definitions in there as well too, and special conditions for certain uses. It's a fairly important one because that is the one that everyone goes to when they want to know what they can build within the zoning districts and what they have to go through in terms of of permitting for the land uses that they propose. Article 4 is overlay districts. Those are just special districts that aren't standard zoning district. They apply over top of the underlying zoning districts and add additional standards, such as a floodplain regulation that adds requirements for flood-proofing of properties. Article 5 is an interesting one. It's sort of a conglomeration. It's called supplemental regulations. It's just a mashup of the regulations. It has adult use, earth removal, solar bylaws in there, a little bit of everything. Article 6 is dimensions. This is another important one, and one that we've already gone through somewhat. Article 7 is design standards. This is the first time that design standards is discussed in the zoning bylaws, but not the last. Article 8 is alternative residential. It has both cluster apartments and local initiative program bylaws within it. Article 9 is parking. That is one that's pretty obvious, but is terribly outdated. Article 10 is landscaping. It's I call it Design Guidelines Part 2. It's requirements for landscaping of properties under different zoning districts. Article 11 is signs. That was recently amended. I think that one's set as is, except for maybe some tweaks. And as we'll learn from what we've been doing, there's always additional tweaks that can be done by on any zoning bylaw, depending on what you find in your implementation of the zoning. Article 12 is performance standards. This is, I'm calling it Design Guidelines Part 3. It's additional standards for development that have requirements. Right now we have the MS4. The town meeting adopted those regulations within the Article 12. Article 13 is zoning protection. That's where you get the pre-existing non-conforming uses section. Article 14 is administration. It has the permit review standards that apply to all special permits and variances. Article 15 is site plan review. And we have a lot of discussion on that. Article 16 is the definitions. This is the more complex, more comprehensive list of definitions. You'll find definitions are included in throughout the zoning bylaw, but this is the one where it has the most of the definitions. This section also refers back to definitions that are included in Article 3. Appendix 1 is the map boundaries and the written descriptions, and Appendix 2 is the amendment history. All the amendments that town meeting has taken action on. I think what we need in terms of amendments to the zoning bylaws at this time is, starting with Article 3, the table of uses and permissions. There needs to be work done on that to make the uses consistent, make sure all the uses are included, and to go over the permissions and make sure they apply as they should. Article 6, dimensions. This has been corrected. We could add some additional content at this time. Article 9, parking is terribly outdated. It also has an inconsistent list of uses. It doesn't match up with the list of uses in the table of uses in Article 3. Article 14 is administration. These are the standards, again, for the special permits and the variances, as well as the procedures that are required and the roles that the people play within the town government on the permission for different land uses. And Article 15, site plan review, as we know, it requires some additional work. The other thing is, I think some reorganization is needed for design standards, landscaping, and performance standards. If we include those together and start to look at those as one, then what we've done is, I think, better prepared ourselves for the design guidelines and performance standards that we want to apply to all development in the town. Any questions?
But I don't have to go first. No. Thank you very much for the summary. I agree in general. I don't think I have any questions. I have a couple of comments or notes. The last two slides. Thank you very much. I agree with your presentation. I don't have questions. I have some comments. So mostly related to the last two slides, zoning laws with amendments or needing reorganization. I want to remind everyone that Article 5, Section 590 has not yet been approved by the Attorney General. That deals with our solar bylaw. So depending on what comes down from the AG, that may either fall on your last slide or...
I was, just to be clear, I was talking about big picture items here. I wasn't talking about the individual issues that come up with some of the zoning bylaws. We have another list of requests for some specific changes in the zoning bylaws, such as the IT department wants to have.
The radio tower and...
The radio tower with the multiple use of the towers. We have a couple of requests from the building commissioner for clarification of non-conforming, pre-existing non-conforming uses to help him in his administration of building permits. There are a few other examples like that, some minor changes that come along. But I'm talking about big picture items, I think, in this case, of what we're trying to do. That there are certain articles that need some major work and some reorganization that could take place to make this read better as well, too.
Okay, thank you for that. I would disagree in that I think Section 590 is a big picture item and a big deal if it doesn't get passed. So that's the only comment that I would make.
Do we have any idea what the timing is for review of that?
No, we don't. The AG asked for additional information and didn't clarify when they were going to respond.
Okay.
Okay. Other than using this to try and assess the amount of work we have, that was my only point for that.
When you talk about reorganization, is there a standard that the state has for sort of the layout of our zoning bylaws?
No, the planning organizations do, though. If you want to go to the APA, the American Planning Association, or some other organization like that, they have standard formats that they recommend for zoning bylaws.
The state doesn't have a model zoning bylaw?
Well, there are a bunch of organizations that maybe have done that already, and the state didn't want to jump in and
Okay.
reinvent the wheel, so to speak.
That's fine. So the APA?
American Planning Association.
That's correct.
Okay, continue.
All right, well, what I'd like to do then, since the WRA is here, is go to the next section, which is on the Wareham Redevelopment Authority rezoning proposal, which is for downtown reinvestment subdistrict. And we're looking for this year's town meetings to advance the proposal. So you know the downtown.
Can we back up a slide? Oh, you're there, okay.
So
Yeah.
when we talk about the downtown district, I know I've heard it before, but just for clarification, so we're talking from basically Danny Warren's project all the way down to the Tremont Nail Factory.
That's right, and
When we're talking about all this,
that's the WV1 district.
right,
And it covers that whole district, the whole area. But what I'm talking about in this case, and what we've discovered with the redevelopment, the urban renewal plan, is that it makes sense to have sub-districts in here as well, too. And
Well-
what we're talking about is a sub-district within, that wraps around Danny Warren's to the edge of the Merchants Way, the northern end of Merchants Way.
Right,
maybe.
but we're not talking about a different set of rules for each district. We're just talking about chopping it up in bite-sized pieces.
Well, I think there'd be different rules, I think, as well, too. Overall, there'd be one area where we have a higher concentration of development because we have a different opportunity with Merchants Way, with the town-owned land there, and our ability to negotiate developers' agreements to get a better class or character of development in that area. So I think that's a sub-district that is separate from the rest of the WV1. Danny Warren has a project that's working because he has coastal access, waterfront access, and can put a marina in. You can't put a marina in the above the Narrows because you can't get underneath the bridge at this point. So he's got a different situation there as well, too. So you have different, what I think is of his sub-districts, and that's becoming clear in the urban renewal plan that we're preparing at this point as well, too. So we have the master plan update, the economic development strategy, and the urban renewal plan, all as work that's being done right now, and is continuing to advance our knowledge and ideas about how we can redevelop the downtown. We recently, a couple years ago, actually put in the Opportunity Fund District that Danny Warren used to advance his projects. It was the reason why he was able to afford to be able to do it. So what we're doing is we're talking.
Back up for a second, what is that map?
That map is the census tract within which the Opportunity Fund District applies.
But the area that's highlighted is water.
Some of it.
Yeah, okay, yep.
It's a census tract. It's not a land use district. That's the 54 census tract.
Oh, it's an interesting map.
Just a question, the Opportunity Fund District, is that identified in Article, I'm going back to your list here, Article 4?
No, it's not, because it's a tax a tax write-off district that the IRS provides.
Okay.
So not a zoning district.
So it's not,
Not a
like you
zoning
said, it's
district.
not a land use district, okay.
It's not a land use district, but it was what instigated the change instigated the development of that property, that parcel down there.
Okay.
It has a
In
drop
59.
dead date, too.
I'm sorry?
It has a drop dead date of use. You have to use the money by a certain date, and then the program no longer exists.
So some of the work that you're looking to do with the changes we're talking about tonight are driven by the need to capitalize on this opportunity, or no?
Only partially at this point. If we get lucky and get somebody who gets the last bit of the Opportunity District as well as the zoning district, then that makes it that much better.
It's fortuitous, but not a driver.
That's right.
Okay.
So is this funding that's given to the town that's discretionary? It's at the state level,
No, federal, IRS.
Federal level.
at federal level? Okay.
IRS tax break
It's,
of X
okay, so it's sort of a,
percentage
okay.
because of, call it an investment zone or an opportunity, I call it an Oz zone.
Yeah, okay.
So what we've done is gone through, this was actually done in 2021. We had originally gone through the zoning proposal for the redevelopment district. This is before we had the urban renewal plan in place, so, and it was felt at the time that maybe it may be premature to continue with the zoning, but we had it was an article in the warrant of town meeting in 2021, And what it did was it created a new Article 17, redevelopment districts in the zoning bylaw, and a new section in that Article 17 that was entitled the Wareham Village Reinvestment Subdistrict, WV1R. And we listed it in this Article 2 as the section that lists the districts, and had a column, a new column, and amended the list of uses and allowances, the permissions, in Article 3 under Table 320 and Table 330.
Can I make a suggestion that those articles that you qualify where you use the word article, so that it's clear that that's the zoning bylaw article and not the town meeting warrant article? We already had a little bit of confusion with that.
Yeah, that's a common problem that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
We have a new column in Table 622 for dimensional standards in the WV.
Excuse me, before we move on, WV1 is defined in the overlay district in Article 4, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's a district. WV1 is a district.
Oh, it's a district, it's not an overlay district.
No, it's a
A
district.
district, thank you.
Yeah, and it shows up in Article 3
Two
uses.
or two?
3, which
In
is.
3 and 2, it shows up.
Yeah, right, and 2
It's
as well.
listed in 2, and it shows up in the table of uses.
WV1,
Okay.
WV2.
Right, I just was confused. I thought it was an overlay district, it's
Yeah,
not.
no,
So we have another column in Table 622 for dimensional standards for the WV1R. We have design guidelines and performance standards, which are very important, and we have those in Article 7. Under Article 9, we put in a new table, 922, for parking schedule. And we have a new section for designating the area, the mapped area, which is, and we include in Appendix 1 of the zoning bylaws. So as you see, we've partitioned the zoning into the different sections of the bylaw to where they apply throughout the standards, so that they can be found easy enough in the standard format that we have now.
And I would suggest that there's probably some new definitions that need to go into Article 16. Yes, no?
We could use those as well, too, for the design guidelines, certainly.
Okay.
This is the proposed area for the WV1R. It's the area in red shown on, it extends from the British landing to the end of the Merchants Way, which is a parcel of land, by the way, not a right-of-way.
It
so looks
also,
like it goes a little beyond,
well, it goes to the fire station, but
yeah.
what you also have to remember is that the rail line has a right-of-way, and we can't cross the rail line without their permission, and we don't have their permission. So access to the water is against the law right now,
Mm-hmm.
although people.
Yep, it's been a
Okay,
problem for,
forever. So,
Forever,
so
right.
the way that it's outlined is a little aggressive, in my opinion. It should scrunch down this way, because we cannot impinge on that right-of-way, the rail right-of-way.
yeah, we,
We are getting we have gotten contact by the DOT, though. They want to proceed with the pedestrian level, grade level crossing of the tracks. So we'll be going through a process with them in the near future to design and construct a grade level crossing.
that would be an amazing feat, because we looked at that way back when the Wareham Village Association started wanting to get to that waterfront, and the only way that they would let us do it is to go up and over the trains, which is,
Right, and now
Level would be amazing.
grade level would be amazing. I don't know how the mechanics of it work, but.
what it'll be is there'll be a fence that'll be erected across most of the tracks, so that there'll be only one place where you can cross.
Right,
But
and serious, like, gates and lights and,
that's right. That's right. And they'll pay for most of it as well, too.
that would be amazing.
Yeah, I've experienced with pedestrian grade level crossings that have the same kind of gates that cars have, and that would be great.
Yeah, so we've got the initial contact, and we've gotten information that the management of the railroad section of DOT wants to make this happen at this time. So we can proceed with that and make that happen.
We don't need any zoning changes for that. That's just going to happen, right?
No, that'll be an amenity that makes sense for redevelopment as well, too.
I was gonna say, it makes, it makes redeveloping Merchants Way
Easier.
Game changer, yeah.
That's what we're hoping.
Now, does the town own, on the other side of the railroad tracks, does the town own no property over there at all? That's all part of the
It's all
right-of-way?
state land.
Including the bump out where the land,
Yeah, all that land on that side past the railroad tracks is state land to the water.
But is it usable once we get a good crossing?
Yeah, it is.
I was going to say, what's the sense of the crossing if you can't,
yeah.
that would be, run the risk of
We've
trespassing on state land.
We also have support for a pier out there as well, too, a fishing pier
Yeah,
by the state.
which would be
There are
perfect.
people fishing there all the time.
Right.
All the time. So,
Yeah.
This would be legal,
yeah.
And safer.
And safer, yes.
Right.
and safer, yeah.
Maybe it'll make it no fun for the people who like to fish.
So now, would the pier be considered state property?
I think that'd be, the town would lease the access and the rights to put it on the pier.
Yeah,
So we'd be responsible for it. They wouldn't want to take any responsibility for the pier.
right. Once it's up, then it's in our hands to maintain it and whatnot.
DCR wouldn't do that for us?
Well, we'll find out.
If they did, we would lose all control.
Right.
This is true.
On all of the boat ramps.
That's true. Yeah, got
So
it.
everybody in the world can come and use it.
Yeah, that's the downside. Got it.
We're also doing a resiliency study of the Main Street, and I wanted to show this example of what we might look at like on the Main Street side as a result of the work that's being done. As you know, there's a floodplain on this section of the village, and what we may find that we need to do is raise up, have something that lifts up the usable space so that there's less impact from flooding, and you can get parking underneath as well, too. So having something that steps up on the Main Street side may be something that allows us to accommodate the floodplain and the parking underneath that makes these projects work.
What's the FEMA elevation that they want?
I believe it's 14.
Okay.
And then the development above gets set back from the street and doesn't create the same kind of wall on the street line. Because it can move back across Merchants Way as well. On the riverside, you'd see something more like the multi-story buildings with that are required. You need to get the number of residential units in there to make it worthwhile to build, to redevelop the properties. So you have parking down on the grade level, maybe balconies up above, and access to the water as well across the tracks. You wouldn't be allowed to play in the tracks, but this would be something similar in that you have development on the side, access across along the north and south direction, as well as into the water, and finally give you an idea of why we need the height. It becomes when you look at a cross section, you'll see that the first floor is going to requires it to be probably 15 feet or so to accommodate commercial development. Then you have 10-foot floors for residential development with enough floors so you can get enough units out of it. The density of residential development, which is going to drive the redevelopment and make it work. So in this case, what we want to do is see how we can make the density work for developers so that they will invest their hard-earned money into creating the kind of development that we would like to see at in the downtown.
The depictions that you have, the first thing that popped out at me is their flat-top roofs. In this, it specifically states no flat roofs. So
Right.
you're going to lose a floor just with design standards.
That's right. That's a half story right there with the peaked roof.
Right. So does the top floor and a half become, the penthouse? Because you can't get that extra layer of apartments or condos or whatever is being built there? Or a developer's going to be coming to us asking for relief from that standard?
I think we have to have some negotiation in the developers' agreements that we sign with the developers so that we get the kind of development we want and they get the density they need to make the project feasible.
Yeah.
If I may? We've had 3 public hearings about this.
Mhm.
The last one we had, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there were some outstanding ideas, and they included having the buildings face the river so that everybody's front door was on the riverside. They included making Main Street one way and Merchants Way one way so that you do that. When that picture was shown, or something just like it, how you get your elevation above the flood zone became much more attractive because you have these usable areas and you're not creating, a stone wall or a, New Bedford hurricane dike or something god-awful like that. So the real issue that came out of those meetings was the 65 feet. And
Is that the height
Building
limitation?
height.
the
Yeah.
building height, yeah. And I know that's an argument that is hot in the onset area of town because when people build another house in front of you and you lose your view, okay. So that was sort of interesting. But there were really neat ideas about having pop-up artists, carts, and just always fascinating ideas, I think. Rooftop dining, a boardwalk slung above Merchants Way as opposed to a river walk, on the river. I mean, there were so many really exciting ideas. And I don't know what we ended up, we know what they said, we have taken note of them. But there was a lot of excitement. I think that's what I'm trying to get across, is there's excitement from people who've moved into the town within the past 2 or 4 or 5 years or something, saying, wow, this is awesome.
One of the things we did, height was an issue back in '21 as well, too. We went through the zoning proposal then. And what we did at that time was say that the height allowed as of right would be 50 feet, and it'd be a special permit to go to 65.
How did you get to those heights? I mean, the limitation on building height, as far as I understand it, has always been based on what the fire department can handle. So how do you get to the 50 or 65 feet?
Go by the standard for the number of units that can be created in the development, so you get the kind of density that is appropriate for.
Yeah, I understand that, but how do the mechanics of public safety work? If that was limited by the fire department's capabilities, the 35 feet, how does the fire department deal with something that's 50 or 65 feet tall?
The fire department says they can handle the height. These are,
That would be something that would need to be confirmed.
that's right.
And the 65 feet, we pointed out that the elevator shaft on the top of the Cornwall building, I guess,
Probably about
That's-
that height.
that's that height.
So
if you can
they
stand
basically
looking at
just,
that building.
we're just using what's already existing on Main Street as kind of the
As the
limit.
measure, yeah.
Right.
And I know that
I just
fire
remember
protection
21, the 65 feet was a hot topic.
It sure was.
Yeah, I remember that well.
So,
Fire protection systems have improved dramatically. so-
Yeah, the 65 feet hot button topic was more aesthetics from the townspeople than anything. It had nothing to do with safety.
Yeah.
It was I don't want that big a building on Main
Quincy.
Street.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I personally think the idea of stepping the building makes perfect sense. It keeps that, walking down an alley in Boston effect away from it all.
That if you open up space at the street level.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you need to maintain that 14 feet above sea level as, no occupancy kind of area, you could almost build it like, if you look at that, the doors that are depicted on the patio, you could almost build it as those doors swing open both in the front of the building and the back of the building, and give you a line of sight right out to the water and to, maybe that boardwalk that you were talking about that was attached to the back of the buildings.
Well, that space could be occupied. I mean, you could use that space, if it's that tall, it's not sort of this compressed, dark, terrible space.
But-
If it's open and airy, it could be occupied, and you could do outdoor seating there, for instance, for a restaurant or something.
Well, I think that's what the patio is.
Right,
But
right, but you
if
could continue it right through.
I'm just looking at it in my mind, and I'm thinking, all right, if you had a building that was 50 feet wide, or 60 feet wide, whatever the case might be, if you had 15 feet on the right, a nice big set of doors that opened, and then another 15 feet on the left, now you could put some small ice cream type things in those 15-foot cavities with the doors that open front to back,
Right.
and maybe even have some small cafe-style seating in there.
Right, well, and, I think, I don't know that our focus here is on throwing out ideas, but, there's a food truck culture that's pretty strong, and that's something that is not permanently affixed, so you could have seating space and do a place where food trucks could come and serve their food, and, if you've got a place where more than one of them can congregate, then you get this synergy happening. That might be a cool thing. So, yeah, there are lots of possibilities. If by opening up the possibility of height that allows you to get the density, I think there's some logic to that, as long as we can put together design guidelines that
In zoning, that makes sense.
make it so that it doesn't look like some places that are not so desirable with that kind of height. I think that height doesn't necessarily mean bad or good, but we need to put together guidelines that take it to the good side of that.
and I think that's where the guidelines need the most work on this level right now. I think that most of the bylaw we have in place, it's the design guidelines that we need to make sure that they are fleshed out, but that they're not too overbearing and so require, take over the designer's responsibility to create a design that is a quality project.
So one of the issues that I have raised at the WRA level is, we have been talking about this for at least 3 years. And at some point, you lose the traction that you gained by putting it before the public. So I was pretty strong in my suggestions that we move forward and try and get this into the April town meeting. I know that's a very short deadline, but we've been working on this, the town, for a long time. And at some point, people are going to say, what? It's the same old, you've done nothing.
Have you gotten pushback from the public about what large change this seems to be. I mean, I look at it and it looks like a completely different downtown, which I would say properly designed can be a fantastic thing, but people tend to be attached to whatever the status quo is. However, it could be improved on. What are you getting in that regard?
We're getting it, we have empty storefronts and we have derelict buildings. There's one that should be torn down right now.
We did have at least one person who said, I don't want to lose the historic aspect of downtown. But,
You know, can't we protect that with the design standards?
yeah, and I'm not, adept enough at answering that question, but that was a very big problem for some people. The other thing that was a problem was going up the hill, as you go up the hill, because we're talking about a small sliver of the whole district. And they were wondering what's going to happen in, 10 or 20 years. This whole project is 5, 6, 10 years out. I mean, this isn't going to happen. Even if we got it to the April town meeting, it isn't happening in October. I mean, it isn't shovel-ready until all of the permitting, all of the, DHCDs, all of the things that need to be jumped over and signed off on get done.
So is there a project that's ready to make use of this zoning change? Is that?
There has been developers that have come around that have been interested in applying the zoning to their,
Even with your mask on, Judy, you have a terrible poker face.
I know,
Okay.
I know.
So what we're working on tonight is directly related to this being presented?
yes.
We hope so.
Okay, and we've been battling this back and forth for a while now. You said it, there's a ton of work to be done before April. What is the most important? What do we focus on? Rather than saying, all right, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, I got 5 pieces of paper that all address something different in the zoning bylaws, the chances of us getting all of it done by April are probably 0. So if there was anything in there that we absolutely had to get done to make this a reality, what is it?
I think the site plan review is an important aspect of this because that runs pretty much most of the development processes that are important to the town. And it would be a process that the WV1R would take on as well, too, for review of development projects in the downtown.
Does that have to go, WV1R has to go to town meeting too, right?
That's right. So the two of them going together, I think, would be
That would be like number 1 on our list.
right.
Get those done. Now, if we can get more done, obviously, hooray for us.
Well, what about,
The other thing is you have the Article 6 of the zoning bylaws has already been done, really. It was just an administrative snafu that kept it out of the town meeting vote. I think what we have to do is we can easily slip that one back in as well, too.
So there's no work to be done there
Article 6.
on Article 6.
what
Just
about a
get it-
priority list?
It's still sort of it's a cleanup right now. It's not a substantive review that we've done.
Right.
But as the cleanup goes, that
But
there's some benefit to that, so
There is, yeah.
getting that through, and, remedying the formality that kept it from the last town meeting.
Well, how about if we make a priority list and say we get whatever part of it done, bring that to town meeting,
Well,
rather than do nothing at town meeting?
No, I agree. I think that's what I was kind of driving at is let's prioritize the work ahead of us. Start with the most important that's going to affect this negatively or positively, and then just start working at it. Because the reality, let's look at this in realistic terms. We're not going to get any of this done at a normal planning board meeting. It ain't going to happen. Which means now we're investing another night of our time.
We already are. We're adding tonight. We've added,
That's what I'm saying.
we've added nights.
It's going to work by just having, yes, we probably need workshops, but This is
I think
work
it's
that has
committee
to,
work.
committee work or individual work that has to happen. There's hours and hours and hours.
And so how do we make that happen with a volunteer board? I mean, I would love to spend all day working with somebody. The reality is I can't. You know, and I just can't do it. I got too much going on in my life.
I mean, I would suggest that there needs to be a way that, without violating quorum rules, that a smaller group can get together and develop drafts that then can be presented to workshops for broader discussion. I think writing by committee is
Very
very
hard.
time-consuming.
Right.
and-
So I would suggest that we were taking that approach when Mr. Swenson was chairman, and we had several working committees of two, no more than two, plus support from Ken and Charlie or Charlie's replacement. We were making progress. It kind of got stalled when Richard left and lots of other things happened. But I think that is,
Solar.
well, yeah, but I think that's a way to move it forward. But then you still need to have the workshops
Right, to bring the work from the committees of two into the workshop.
and then for discussion.
Right.
It could be, it's an open public meeting, but it's not public hearing where we take tons of
Right, okay.
comment.
Now,
So-
can we safely have two people from the planning board and one person from the WRA on the same committee
Yes, we can.
and not create any issues for ourselves?
No, we wouldn't.
Okay, all right, so, I mean,
I roll as a town planner as well, too, so.
see, I'm all for joining one of these committees. My one and only day off is Friday. And the last time I checked, none of you people work on Friday.
And the other thing we ought to, so yes, that's a concern, but it's not April. This has to be done
Yeah,
mid-February.
do we have a
You have a deadline?
Roughly,
calendar?
our experience from, let's say, the solar bylaw, let's
Yeah,
just say.
what's the calendar?
Roughly, all of the dots and crosses of Ts needs to be done early to mid-February, because then you've got to schedule public hearings. And I think March 1st is like the latest,
We can schedule the public hearings now, as a matter of fact.
yes. But
We have text that we can put out that we can use
I
to,
was just trying to say in the schedule, those public hearings need to be in March, right?
Yes, but they can be subsequent to the warrant being posted.
Right, but I'm just saying, we don't have all the way to April to
You
write
do
these
not.
things.
You have until, what did we do the other day? We looked at.
I think mid-February,
17th, I think you're
March
right.
17th, I think, was the date, last date that.
What's the
that
date?
will
Is
take.
that?
March 17th would be the last date, I think,
and then
Right.
public hearings after March 17th.
at any time before town meeting, yeah.
Well, yeah, so, okay. All right, so that's a little longer than I thought. I was shooting for mid-February.
We
So
could
that
hold
gives
public
us
hearings
10
in
weeks,
mid-February.
Basically.
4 or 5 and 4, 9 and 1 in March. Yeah, 10 weeks. So if you started mapping that out as a
That was
work
my
plan,
recollection.
your subcommittee needs to hit the ground running like the day after New Year's Day.
Right now.
Well,
Skip
it's
Christmas.
Christmas and
Yeah.
there's not a lot. I'm being realistic. I don't
Yeah,
think you're
I
going to
agree,
get a
Carl.
lot done in the next 2 weeks.
No, I agree. I think if we did this, we would have to hit it hard starting right after the new year. So we would have committees of two people each from the planning board and one person from the WRA working in concert.
Yeah, and those would be at least meeting several hours once a week as a committee, and then several additional hours of individual work.
I don't know if the work is that much, actually. There was quite a bit that was done on Article 15, the site plan review.
Okay, that was.
I think what it is getting up to speed on what was done previously on these,
I think,
and then seeing what is left to do on them.
I think we need to hear from Attorney Bowen, though, about the fact that we've conflated special permit and site plan review. And
Thank you.
that's causing,
Yeah.
it's causing questions. And I believe Now, maybe we don't address that this time around, depending on what Attorney Bowen.
I think we have to address it. I think that's necessary, because this is, it's too confusing at this point.
Absolutely, so,
You know the reason why it came about? Previously, when site plan review was put in place, it was a two-step process. There was a simple site plan review without a special permit, and there was for larger size projects, there was the one with a special permit.
Right.
It was necessary. And what was left over was the text that said special permit in some sections and wasn't included in others when they just did one site plan review function.
so the work that Richard and I did on Article 15 did not advance that clarification.
But I think it's relatively easy. I think we take out special permit out of it, or we put it in every section as well, too.
We're working it now. I'm not, it could be that simple, but then, as you and I talked, if we do that, then we need to create site plan review rules and regulations to support the site, to support Article 15.
Right, and those are actually in the site plan review bylaw right now, and what we want to do is take them out of that and put them into the regulations.
Right,
So,
that's what I'm saying. So that's all work
That needs to be done.
needs to be done. And maybe it's not as hard as I'm envisioning. Maybe it's not, but that's all work that I think you're saying we need to do now.
that's right.
And then changes to Article 15 will flow back to Article 3 for sure. It will affect Section 590 because we were referring to site plan review and assuming that the special permit was there. So there's some subtle wording changes in Section 590. Article 14, I think you've said needs to be cleared up because that's where special permit,
The standards for special permits are located, yeah.
just need to make sure it's consistent, maybe no changes, but again, check for consistency. That's the work, just for Article 15.
Yeah, you got your work plan laid out for you. That's pretty clear.
I think also we need to do a gut check to make sure that where the planning board wants to be is a site plan review special permit.
Or just a
aggregated.
site plan review, yeah.
I don't know why we would do the second, notwithstanding what we have been advised, but I think it's something we need to spend time on and make a decision.
Well, I think we need to have site plans and special permits.
Right.
And just not try and make it a
Right.
single thing. You've got to get your site plan, and then these things require a site plan and a special permit, and you have your rules
Right.
clearly
For each
for
thing.
each thing. But you still have to get
This-
both things.
Right, but the site plan review special permit just
Confuse,
Yeah,
confuses everybody. I've never understood that, even when we rewrote this 20, or did the wholesale rewrite of this 20 years ago. I was like,
so that's
what?
what we're talking about. That needs to probably be clarified, and certainly that then affects the use table, because we've got places where we try and mash that together.
Well, and the special permit language is so limited right now. Site plan review is a little bit more lengthy, but if I'm remembering correctly, maybe I've got it reversed, but
And
No,
then
you're
there's-
right. The special permit criteria is,
it's like a couple paragraphs and that's it.
right,
Well, it's
right.
not really clear what was intended to be
It's-
special
yeah.
permit and site plan.
Right.
So, yeah, it just needs to be cleared up, and maybe special permit needs to be beefed up.
Well, and special permit is such a major thing that we do, that it maybe shouldn't be buried as 1460, you know?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, yeah.
Well, the other thing is to use rules and regulations for that process as well, too, and to clarify what is required for the review under a special permit, which is what we're suggesting for the site plan review as well, too.
Right.
Is to set up some rules and regulations that you
And we
can,
can modify that, not through town meeting, but through public hearing.
that's right, on your own, yeah.
The board.
All you have to do is have a public hearing and file it with the town clerk.
Right. And then I want to point out the dangling, confusing issue of Article 1216. For some reason, Article 12 excludes, all of Article 12 is excluded from special permit. So all of those conditions, because it's excluded, need to be brought forward and considered and either Article 15 or whatever the special, or, do you remember why Article 12 is excluded from special
I have
permit?
no idea. That was before my time, but they did that as well, so I don't know.
That's a dangling sort of thing. So all of the conditions that you get from Article 12, which is some design standards, are exempted from special permit. Now, maybe they should be, maybe they shouldn't be, but, or the ones that need to be brought forward have to be copied and brought forward.
Just to ruin your day, March 1st is the deadline.
Okay, that's,
Still
we
tweaks from us?
all knew that it was sort of in that time frame.
When's town meeting?
April 24th or 25th, that I have to look at, let me look at the date again.
The fourth Monday in April.
April 24th,
Is there going to be a special town meeting?
I don't know.
Because that bought us an extra week or two last year, because
No.
the timing for special town meeting was a little
We
different.
sometimes like to do that, especially because of that, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't,
Wouldn't count. Let's not schedule that way.
I can't.
No, I'm just saying, we shouldn't.
Right.
Yeah, let's use our time based on the fact that it won't be there. Okay. So we're gonna create subcommittees,
Well,
committees of two.
and we're going to look at Article 15. And the,
Fifteen's the big one. It's-
Article 15 is,
and then from
A monster in
all of the ancillary changes, that subcommittee will point out, okay, these are the changes we need to make to Article 3, these are the changes we need to make.
as a result of the work from 15.
Right, but there may be other, if you have another subcommittee, then you're going to have to marry those things together in a merge process for the other articles. Plus, we have to have somebody work on the Wareham Article 17, WVR 1, writing that language, right?
Right, that's what I hope.
Yeah, you don't have a model for that, do you?
A model for the,
So we're not starting with like a blank whiteboard.
Let's change the one that's there and just limit the location, right? We already passed it.
yeah, the WV1 is already passed.
So,
Well, there's some of that language. Some
The
of
language is already
here.
there in the
so you just
bylaw.
smallen it up.
It's filling in the substantive stuff that's gonna be complicated.
Right. So
There's design guidelines and performance standards in there as well, too, and
Yeah,
what it
and-
is
So your
going
And
subcommittees
you've
through.
got
are
the
gonna
the
just
columns
look at their
filled in
They have
for-
to look at the entire set of bylaws. They may not be rewriting them all, but they've got to see
So
where
so
they
as you
fall.
address something within Article 15, now you're gonna take whatever it is that you've talked about
And
and
make
go
sure
back
that
and
it's
look
consistent everywhere else.
everywhere else, right?
Or,
So does it make sense since, Article 15 is fairly large, do we create, two committees or three committees and divvy it up?
I think that would be very confusing.
We've
I'm
done a
afraid
lot of
so,
work
too.
already on 15,
Yeah, and we just need to take it further to pull out the special
Right.
permit.
but a lot of it is, we're not starting from zero. We've done a
Right.
lot of work.
There's a lot of work that was done, but a lot of it was, we were trying to monkey around or jury rig around site plan review special permit. And if you no longer have that restriction, we can go back and streamline Article 15, and then we have to figure out what new stuff either needs to be
Well, and
pulled out or created.
I think that things like this Article 17, that needs to affect a whole bunch of different articles, I think from my experience with working over Article 6, just to clean it up, it just needs some care attributed to it, to interleave, like putting the columns instead of throwing in a separate table at the back of the article. And I think
I think it alluded-
that actually
You did a great
happens
job.
afterwards. What's that?
You did a great job.
But I think that's something that happens maybe after town meeting, that this thing gets,
The
but
next,
it's,
we go to
but
the
the
next stage
care has
of-
to happen.
Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion, which is that we could consider having one person who is more or less the coordinator or project manager for it, who has several people they can draw on. The three of them, or however many of them, never meet all together except at, you know,
A workshop
a
or something.
workshop.
Or an agenda item on a regular meeting.
Right, but one person who is greatly knowledgeable about the bylaws, what they need, sort of an overview of them as well, whoever that is among us, maybe can draw on the others of us to contribute to the project, which is getting these pieces that we need by town meeting, so that no one person ends up with all the work, no two people end up with it, but you have a couple of people you can draw on and make assignments to, and will be accountable to each other.
Who has that knowledge of the zoning? Ken,
Yeah,
but are you available
I'd make myself available for this.
for this? Okay.
Yeah, because this is important. This is how it affects my job on a regular day-to-day basis.
Well, that's good motivation.
And, I mean, Carl, I think you would have a lot to contribute here too, and Jane.
And I do have the advantage of being retired, but
Me too.
I'm more retired than you.
Okay.
I'm supposed to be retired too, like, but more work now than I
I'm-
had when I was not retired.
Committed to supporting improving the bylaws, so I will contribute. I'm just gone 2 weeks in February.
Okay, so if we had Ken be the point man, because, I mean, you know intimately where the issues are that you think is going to concern the success of this, and then your direction came down to Carl and Jane. Congratulations. And then from there, disseminated to Sam, myself, and Mike, and Sherry. And you say, all right, this is the issue we have at hand. Both Carl and Jane are aware of it. They both agree that, you know, there's work that needs to be done on 1510, and at that point, you could hand them out like committee assignments. And then we report back to you, you report back to Ken, and then that way there's a defined path of information, both outgoing and incoming.
I'm thinking about what you said. I'm not sure that you can take a bylaw and say, okay, you rewrite section 1510, you write.
Well, I don't know if rewriting it is the right word. I mean, if
Or whatever.
we can't meet collectively
No, but I'm
to
not saying
correct
you
it.
can parcel the work out. That's what I'm not sure.
Well, we're already talking about parceling the work out
In
to
terms of-
groups of two.
Mechanics, what would happen if you and I each took an article, 15 and 17? Are those the two that we really need to?
And then that would drive changes to every other,
Right,
any other place.
Right, but I think if we present them to town meeting as a package, and that it just needs to get interleaved into those other sections, which is a clerical exercise.
Has to be
Not-
approved at town meeting, though.
Right,
Oh,
right, but
okay.
like this document right here on Article 17, for instance, it has, for Article 3, there are parts of it that, you know, that have to.
Oh, yes, okay.
You know what I mean? So but this is a package. And it's mostly about Article 17, but it affects a whole bunch of other articles with material that's related to this Article 17.
Okay, you're right, that's how you have to present it.
So I think that Article 15 could be looked at maybe the same way, that if there's stuff that has to happen to different articles related to the substance of Article.
It's a package for Article 15.
Right.
Okay, now I understand what you mean.
And that maybe if you and I each take one of these and
And I would suggest that, Jane, you take the Article 17, because there'd be design guidelines that you could help on as well.
Okay,
And since Carl was involved in the site plan review previously, that he would be probably best,
if we do sort of a deep dive and make notes and then trade, do a review of them, and I don't know, I'm trying to think about the
And you'd
mechanics of how
involve
we make
Ken.
this work.
Involve Ken
Yeah,
from the standpoint of your overview and knowledge of,
and I can produce the documents as well, too, in the process.
it's a place to start, anyway.
Okay.
So just to be clear, we're going to resubmit Article 6 the way that I have it here with, right? Because the reason it didn't get done is, and I don't, or just.
It was
wasn't-
an administrative
Right.
issue.
So we're just going to resubmit this one. Is there any reason, does this need to be reviewed? in a-
Unless anybody has any thoughts that are substantive, it was really, it was a cleanup.
Okay.
It
We
was,
still have to have a public hearing.
Yeah, we do.
oh, is that
but
what didn't happen?
Yeah.
Well, we
before?
did,
was
but I don't think
away,
we-
It wasn't advertised correctly. The letter didn't go out to DHCD on it.
But I'm going to put this in as a resubmit.
Yeah.
I'm building my warrant already.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not married to it. If somebody has reason to
take
make
it
any
back to the
revisions to
ZBA.
it, that's fine. Yeah, kick it back to the ZBA. They were the ones who were griping about it, so,
Yeah, they wrote a memo on it, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, where's that fire extinguisher?
Yeah, forgot about that.
Look, can I make another suggestion? You know that I have a sense of humor, Ken, and so it's in that vein. If we do this work and we're putting it together, if it has to be submitted to the Attorney General, can we help you with that and make sure that the package is what we all want it to be?
Oh, of course.
Okay, great. I know you've got way too much to do.
Okay, so where's that leave us?
That leaves you with the other bylaws that have to be amended that aren't on the list yet, that have to be prioritized as well.
Are we going to try and do that for
WV.
Springtown
I
meeting?
was just gonna say, I don't think we can get all this
We're gonna
work
have to
done.
do
I think just Article 15 and Article
15 and
17.
17, and we're doing well.
That's a lot of work all by
Whatever
itself.
the other finger updates are.
Right.
But I think,
We're going to have to write the article.
A lot of work's been done on 15 and 17.
The small one.
15, yeah, Richard, we met for hours and hours.
So a lot of work has been done, but now to pull out the special permit, we need to think about what that means. And then, we never wrote the rules and regs.
That's the hard part.
So we just stick to 15 and 17?
I think you start there.
15, 17, and 6.
Well, 6 is.
6
yeah.
is done.
6 is
That's,
done.
yeah. That's, I would've thrown 6 in too.
Yeah.
Throw
But
6 in twice.
Like, I did kind of have some comments on it.
Which one's that?
That was
What article is that?
the 14 administration.
I think,
I
yeah,
think I had-
14 probably needs to be clarified if we're going to separate special permit out of site plan. Or at least needs to
Do
be
you
read.
think so? It's just, this is just it's administration, really. It's, well,
There's some special permit stuff buried in there.
yeah, that's right. That's standards for review, yep. How many weeks?
we have October coming as well.
Yeah, maybe this just waits
Do
until
we,
then.
I say, if we only get 15 and 17 done for spring meeting, does that open up any potential potholes that we should worry about between spring
By not
meeting
having
and
this
fall
done and
meeting?
this done.
By not getting it
Board
done?
of Appeals is for, to address the questions. That's what the Board of Appeals is for, to address items that are questions.
Are they aware that they're, do they have their,
I was being somewhat joking around as it happens, but we've been dealing with a bylaw that has its problems, and we've been muddling through.
Well, I mean, personally for me, I think we should just stick to these two, 15 and 17. I mean, like Judy said, and I happen to agree 100%, until we get our ducks in a row on these, nothing's ever gonna happen with downtown. It's just gonna languish like it has been. So I would just, you know, let's concentrate on these. Let's just get these done and get them perfect, or as perfect as possible, and not dilute our attention, well, 6 obviously is already done, dilute our attention on other articles that we just don't have time.
We can pick them up later, of course.
I mean, yeah, right, if everything goes fabulous and we find out second week of February we're done, well, okay, let's dive into another one in the hopes that we can actually get it finished. But why do a bunch of things okay instead of just doing 1 or 2 things perfect? I think we keep tripping
I
over
think we all
ourselves.
agree that we have to do those 2 first.
Yes,
And
I think we should just plan on rolling into the other ones when we're done with these. The goal is to get as much done as we can, but I think we should keep the momentum going.
right. We'll focus on these for the meeting, but just know that we're gonna continue to work past the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, if we say we get these done and then the meeting happens and we haven't kept going, then we're gonna run up against the
Well,
same
right,
brick
in
wall
the
with the
fall.
next one, right? So if we
Next
just.
September, we'll be having this or
Well, and
August.
I think that a bunch of what's in these that we're not attacking right, that are not the number 1 priority, comes from what's in the ones that are the higher priorities. So I think that the momentum will be there that will inform these, so we might as well just keep going.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. All right, so when do we start? When do you want to get started? Right after the first?
When the door hits.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the nice thing is, you know, you can sit there with your coffee at night and work away at it. So the work can start right away, agreed.
It seems like that part, working kind of on our own, can start.
Well, the other aspect about Article 15, the site plan review, is we want to get Rich Bowen's take on the special permit as well, too.
Well,
The way it reads right now as to whether or not
can
that's,
we do that sooner than later? 'Cause-
I hope so.
Well, it seems, and I'm sure Rich's schedule is as busy as everybody else's, but it seems like every time we need an opinion from him, it takes us forever to get.
Well, he said he wanted to get a chance to talk to me about it, so before he has the conversation with the attorney from Zero Route 25.
Can I flip that question around, though? Regardless of what Attorney Bowen is going to tell us, he's going to tell us how bad our current situation is. That doesn't mean that we couldn't move forward, and he's not going to tell us we can't separate it, right?
That's right. That's right. He was going to tell us what the problem is with the bylaw the way it is written right now.
But-
And so we can get from that a correction that we want to do, depending on whether or not we want the special permit or not.
Right. I don't think he's going to tell us you shouldn't improve it, or you shouldn't try and separate it, right?
Right.
So I think we should move forward on the assumption that we should, and see what he tells us we have to fix with what we've got right now.
Yeah, I would.
You want to separate?
Am I making sense
Is he
what
in
I'm
tomorrow?
saying?
Yeah,
He's
I
not going
think
to
that-
tell us not to fix it.
No, right, because he knows it's bad. I mean, you don't need to hear from him what's bad about what we've got. That's not useful.
Right, he hears that in court all the time.
We're already fully aware of that. So what we need from him is constructive information about
How to
his recommendation about how
Well,
we
no,
should
no,
move
we
forward.
need his specific recommendation because there's been 2 cases before us that
have
are turning
Really
on.
unclear, yeah,
Yeah, well, Ms. Sheehan was not unclear at all.
yeah.
And she made a very compelling argument, and I think Attorney Clavins has the same concerns.
But I think, though, I think one thing that's important in getting Bowen's opinion is how this was intended to be interpreted. Because I think what I'm hearing from you is that the intent has been that both the special permit and a site plan review were required. And if that's what the intent was and there's some ambiguity, the planning board gets to resolve the ambiguity and say what it means.
Yeah,
And since it's more protective of our prerogatives, I would hope that he would be sensitive to that as well.
May I make a suggestion? When the person who's reviewing Article 15 needs some clarification, you go with Ken and sit with Mr. Bowen. And when you need clarification on Article 17, you go with Ken and you hear it at the same time.
Yeah.
Because this gentleman serves 4 masters right now.
Yeah,
And we're working on that.
yeah.
But you cannot serve, you cannot be in 4 jobs, and that's what he's doing right now. So in order to make sure that we are helping him get what we would like to get done, I would suggest sharing the burden.
Oh, no, that's not a problem at all.
No.
There's no,
He's in on Thursdays, and if you really desperately need him, I will get him in on another day.
And Ken, I would be happy to accompany you if you would find that helpful.
That would be, I think that's I think maybe you and Carl should come along with
Okay.
and have a discussion on the special permit aspects of the bylaw, because right now what I have is Article 15, it says the site plan review is a special permit, and that's the reason why we take it as a special permit. What the other attorneys are saying is there are other aspects of the bylaw that don't make that as clear cut as Article 15 does.
well, clearly we know that the existing Article 590 did not, actually says the zoning board is the special permit granting authority. And that's what the use table says, that's what Article 590 says.
Except in one instance,
Yeah. that might-
cluster development.
Oh, no, I was just talking about solar, just
Oh, okay.
the 2 solar projects.
Yeah.
But then Article 15 sort of turns that on its head, and that's sort of why we're all wrapped around the axle, I think.
Right. So we get clarification from Rich Bowen and,
Right. No, nobody up until now has raised this question, even though that specter has always been there. But we tried to fix in the new 590 that, because it's all planning board.
Yeah,
In section 590, the new one.
yeah,
And the use table was adjusted to match that.
yeah.
But right now, we're stuck with the old section 590. All right,
Right.
I'll be, no, I'm just thinking out loud. I'm not trying to argue with anybody. I'm just trying to talk myself into understanding. I'll be glad to see.
just for clarification on that, the Article 590 is in force as soon as town meeting votes on it. What happens is that anybody who uses it is at risk if the Attorney General turns it down.
You and I are, I think, on the same page on that. The problem is that New Leaf and,
Channel 25.
Are protected
25.
because they had previously received their special permit.
they're all subject
To the
to
old.
the October 2019 version, which has the confusing
Language, yeah,
language.
right.
All right, well, I'll be glad to go with you and hear Attorney Bowen's guidance. And Sherry, I always appreciate her opinion. And then use that to guide how we fix Article 15.
You want a whole day with him?
And soon,
Don't need a whole day.
No, but I have,
Well, they said he's in tomorrow.
is that possible?
if I could get him in on a Tuesday, we'd have to get New Year.
Is that possible, Carl?
Yeah,
I'll look at my calendar for Thursday.
I don't think we.
Tomorrow.
That's-
Half day at most,
Oh, tomorrow's Tuesday.
All day.
half day at most.
Yeah, I only have one thing in the morning tomorrow. I have
Oh,
a,
yeah, I
Okay.
can do it in the
We'll talk to
afternoon
Judy,
tomorrow.
let's get a
So
schedule
what's-
together.
What's the
if we were able to get Attorney Bowen to come in on a Tuesday afternoon, probably after 2 o'clock, probably 2:30, and sit with Ken and whichever one or ones of you are into whatever, then what we normally do is on Thursdays, he has time slots, okay?
Yeah.
And the problem is that there's a lot of work. And so if we can make this a priority by having him come in another day as well as the
Thursday.
Thursday?
Are we talking tomorrow?
No.
No.
Well, he's going to be in tomorrow, but tomorrow he has a lawsuit, and there's this many,
Can we-
stack this high of documents that needs to be gone through.
Can we make sure he has everything he needs? He can read it ahead of time, give him everything, anything you think he may need. He can have as much time as he needs to read it, think about it, look something up, whatever, and be ready for the meeting, not have to get up to speed.
He says he's received all the documentation he needs. What he needs right now is a conversation with me on the implementation of the bylaw and the issues involved in it.
All right?
So is it
So
possible
it'd be
that
good
we might
time
meet with him
sometime.
the week between?
Christmas and New Year's.
On the 27th?
So I'm good on Monday, Tuesday, not Wednesday at all.
Are you talking about after Christmas?
Yes, yeah.
But in that week between
And then
Christmas
Thursday and
New Year?
Friday, yeah, I'm just, Wednesday that week
Possibility?
between, right now, I'm pretty open. I just need to schedule sooner rather than
Can
later.
we get a date, a hard date now?
If somebody tells me, yeah. No, you've got to talk to Attorney Bowen.
What if I tell him that January 10th is when he's meeting with you? Or
January.
3rd, I don't care.
Oh, not between Christmas and New Year's.
Well,
Well, I was
the
hoping between
town hall
Christmas
is
and New Year's.
closed. We only have Tuesday and Wednesday this week.
Oh, okay.
Town hall is closed Thursday, so I'm guessing that it's not so close because we're going to also lose the 29th, right? We'll lose that Wednesday? Or no, we'll lose that.
No, we lose the Monday, 26th is
Yeah, so we're losing the 26th, and then we're off there, so that's only a 4-day week. I can try.
That's important.
I know that's,
Yeah, especially since we're talking about timelines. So see if we can line them up for Tuesday, the 27th.
If he does, I'm available on the 27th.
27th, I'm available. Beginning of January, I'm gone.
That would be awesome.
I'm available on the 27th.
Oh, see, there it is.
you are?
The stars are aligned.
You are.
Both Carl and Sherry are available for the 27th. Now all we need is the attorney.
So are we going to try and have him look at both articles, 15 and 17, at once? Or are we going to wait to do,
I think
17.
we give them 17 as well, and if we get through 15, then we deal with 17. If not, if we don't have time, then we take it up later.
okay,
Might I suggest that you put in writing the question or questions that you're going to be asking him?
Yeah.
Even though you've sent him all the documentation,
mm-hmm,
it's kind of like 10th grade. I want you to answer this question.
Yep.
Unless I tell you what question I'd like you to answer, there's no way.
And not discuss it, just,
Well, no, discussing,
Just he'll be
it's like going to a
prepared.
medium, you have to have a question.
yeah, you have, well, if you give him a whole bunch of documents and say, well, we'd like to meet with you, that's nice, I'd like to meet with you too.
Yeah, look, it's paper.
Yeah. And if you looked at that office, you'd be horrified. So you need to be very specific about what it is that you're looking at and why you're looking at it. It's not just you guys. It's WRA, as well as the entire Board of Selectmen. We want this done. We want the reinvestment and the reinvention of Main Street to happen.
It's only been 25 or
Well, Kyle,
30 years
I
in
mean,
the coming.
you're perfect at that.
There are people who have actually bought buildings and they're just sitting there. And
waiting for the opportunity.
Waiting for the
Right.
bill.
Yeah.
And some of them are putting money into them, and some
I
of
mean,
them
I
aren't.
can,
So actually, we may have a
Summarize
problem
some-
if I show up at that same meeting as you guys.
Yeah, this meeting,
Rich Bowen.
I perceive this meeting to be about the question of special permit site plan review. That's a little bit different.
Yeah.
And I would be happy to work with you to fashion a question. This is very much like law school, so I'm having happy flashbacks here.
great. I'd be glad to sit with you, and, I mean, I know, I haven't organized them, but I know what the questions are regarding the matters that are before us now. And then from that, derive insight into how we want to fix, improve the bylaw. So I think that first understanding the problems that we have created for ourselves and which we may be able to get out of without any concern, but we don't want to have confusion. I think what we always hear is if people come before us, they would just want to know what the rules are,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and be able to have the same interpretation.
yeah, yeah. And you will always hear me argue that in the case of ambiguity, we get to say,
Oh, clearly, that I think the law defers to our guidance as long as we can articulate how we reach that conclusion.
right. Yeah, and when it comes to the broader questions about how the bylaws should be rewritten, I think that should be the two of you going in with the questions that you have with your bylaws.
Well, today is Monday, right? Yeah, okay. I've lost track. All right, I'd be glad to sit down with you. I just have a small meeting tomorrow morning, a physical therapy at 9:30. And I have a doctor's appointment Wednesday morning that's done by 10. And then Thursday, in the morning I'm open
Okay.
till 10:30, 11.
Why don't we say Wednesday at 10, 11, to give you,
Okay, 11, yeah, because I'll be in Fairhaven, then 11 o'clock, and then we'll just meet over here at the cafe.
okay.
And then from that, Ken, we'll try and get you some questions to get to Attorney Bowen that we would then review on Tuesday, the 27th.
I just sent him an email.
Which you could tell us it isn't going to happen or not, but at least we'll be ready for that day.
Right, you'll have the questions formulated at that point.
I just sent him an email asking him if he could make it available the 27th in the afternoon, specifically for Ken and you, and then as well as on the 29th for the rest of us. If it's okay with you, I think that Mr. Butler, as the chair of WRA, should be kept informed of what it is that you're doing, because this really is a push from us as well, if you don't mind.
Not a chance. So we have a plan then. Okay, cool.
And you have March 1st as a deadline.
We have, right, so we have a goal to meet and a date to meet it by, which is all you need to be successful.
And then we
Oh,
have,
yeah.
then we have Ferry Hill coming back,
That would be after all of this, thankfully.
Yes.
hopefully.
That may be a while yet, because I don't think the Conservation Commission is going to get through their court case very well.
It's-
You're right.
Apparently, he thinks he can get it done by March. I'd be shocked.
The superseding order may be available by March, but not the court case
Right.
on the town bylaw, which is going to be the harder one to pass.
All right, so I will see you on Wednesday, and then we'll see you on Tuesday at some time.
That sounds good.
Okay.
That's the plan.
That's
Thank
it?
you. Thank you very much.
Maybe you and I could have
Do you
coffee at
want-
some point to talk about your ideas on how we approach this
Sure.
mechanically.
When we're
I'm
done
happy
with
to
the next meeting.
meet with you, but I can't
I was
meet
just going
with
to
you.
say, I was just going to ask Dan if he wanted to adjourn the meeting, the WRA meeting.
I move to adjourn the WRA meeting.
Yeah, group text.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Ms. Whiteside, if you would just wait a minute, do we want to talk about Wareham retail while she's here?
We can bring that up,
Under,
other business. Yeah.
Because it's,
I-
you didn't expect me to bring this up because you didn't know I did a
No,
site
I
visit.
agree. I agree. So, do we need a motion to discuss that, or can we just bring it up?
I think we can bring it,
Okay.
you know.
So, you received some information, I think today, that all the outstanding items that were on the punch list for Wareham retail had been addressed.
Somebody, Alan told me a little while ago, Mr. Slavin told me that from Mike, you, just a heads up that the punch list for Starbucks is not done.
Correct. That's what we wanted to clarify. We were under the impression that maybe you had gotten some bad information, that they had completed everything that they were supposed to, based on the visit.
based on what I was told.
Right, so, okay, so the point is, it's not,
It's not done.
Right.
it's not, and it's not specific to Starbucks. It's all, it's Chipotle, it's
Aspen Dental.
Aspen Dental, because that's all one site under one permit.
Okay, so I need from you an email sometime before tomorrow night.
Of a specific list of items.
I don't care about the items, all I need to know is that they have not complied with your requirements, and they will not get done, and they'll be shut down as of
Okay,
midnight, December
now-
31st.
What I would like to bring to the board is an idea that Mr. Buckland proposed. Do we agree that shutting down Starbucks, other than they haven't followed the rules, is not necessarily in the town's best interest? Or how do you feel about that? I'm looking at you, Ms. Whiteside. People would lose work.
It's a terrible idea.
It is a
Right,
terrible
okay.
idea.
So,
But how
Mr.
do you, I don't mean to interrupt.
Oh, go ahead.
How do we stop the vicious cycle of developers thumbing their nose at us?
Coming
At
in-
some point in time, a line in the sand has to be drawn that says, if you come before the board and you ask to build a project, and there are COAs attached to that project, and you fail to follow them, even with repeated requests from the enforcement authority asking you to, where do we finally say enough?
And by the way, until you guys didn't give them the permit, they
They did nothing.
did nothing.
Right. It wasn't until you
The
said,
day after
you're not
you
going to
didn't
get
give
it.
them the permit, they showed up and started working.
The next day.
So, let me use the closing of a restaurant recently as an important concept of what we don't want to have happen in this town.
Right, that's why I raised the question.
And people make business decisions and they live by them, and the public doesn't always know who's responsible for those decisions, but they always know who to pick on. So I'd be happy to hold the permit. What day of the week is that? We're not meeting again until January 3rd.
Right.
And so I could hold the permit, I can actually hold I can subject to the specifics. It's on the agenda for tomorrow night. but I need to know, as long as they do what they're supposed to, when is town hall closed? Before the holiday?
It closes on Thursday.
On
It's closed Thursday to Monday.
the 1st?
I think it's on, I don't know when
They
the
close it
closing.
on the 29th?
I don't know.
See,
They've made this problem themselves,
For a year.
Right.
I
This is
understand.
and we suffer for it.
I understand that. And I appreciate that, and I have already revised all of our documents for approvals for any licenses, whether they're renewals or new licenses. He has to sign off, as does the building inspector, period. And until they're signed off, we're not giving those licenses out,
Right.
okay? That's,
That's the mechanics of it, but the reality of it is, and you brought that up, you tug at the heartstrings. All right, so there's 12 people that work at Starbucks. That's how they make their living.
so if
And I get that. You know, we don't want to be, you know, Attila the Hun and say, you know, you can't pay your rent this month because we shut the place where you work down. But at some point in time, these people have to understand that we're not going through this process and putting conditions on projects because we got nothing else in our lives that we want to do.
The problem is it's hurting the people that are leasing the property, not the people that own the property, that are in charge of the development of the property.
Again, it's where do you say, you know what, the hell with the conditions, nobody pays attention to them anyway.
I can call,
Yeah.
if you give me a contact number, I can call tomorrow from the selectman's office and say, I'm sorry, even though it's in front of us, you have not completed the punch list or whatever you want to call it. And until that has been done, we will not be releasing this license. And here are the days that the town hall is open.
Well-
And if you haven't complied with it by December 31st, if you haven't picked up your license from the office, you can't open the next day.
Is there a, you know, doing all of this reading in the articles, there's a tool in the arsenal for the zoning enforcement officer about a daily fine. If you find Wareham Retail Management on a daily basis,
I can't find anybody on that.
Paul
Not
can.
on your, you can, or Paul.
well,
can.
we can't.
No, Mr. Turner can.
Right, but the building commissioner can. So if we reverted to a daily fine for Wareham Retail Management, now it's not affecting Starbucks directly, and it's not affecting the people that work at Starbucks. It's affecting the people that own the property that Starbucks leases.
Then that's a preferable way of going, in my opinion.
Will that happen? Or will we be presented with another reason why we can't? Because that just seems to be what we keep running into.
Can you issue the license for 90 days or extend it for, you
No.
don't have that?
No.
Okay, let me ask another question. This is to Mr. Buckland. We can rescind the special permit, which then also would shut all those businesses down. However, we could rescind it in such a way that we give them, they have to post a bond, and they have a 90-day cure period. We could, if we were going to actually enforce that, we have a mechanism for periodic, is that correct? We could rescind the special permit for non-compliance.
I think, I'd like to have a discussion with Rich Bone on this as well, too. Because I think what happens is the issuance of the certificate of occupancy supersedes the special permit.
Here's the problem, a certificate of occupancy should have never been issued
Right.
because they weren't in compliance with the conditions of approval.
Right. And we ran into the same issue with Master Millworks.
Right.
They got a CO when they were not in compliance. And it seems like it's, well, geez, you know, we're really close, and it's gonna cost us a lot of money, we're gonna have financial hardship. There's always a reason why they can't do what they've agreed to do when we signed off on the project. There's always a reason. And at the end of the day, here we are burning up our time discussing it.
So let me put another question before the board. We're weighing the livelihood of 12 people against the matter of principle. The 4 conditions they haven't met, we could argue they're relatively minor. But they are conditions, no matter what. There's only one that's sort of a safety issue.
Yeah,
Which is the tire stops.
The tire stops, yeah.
Which is
Whether they
easy to-
fix the irrigation or not,
There's nothing growing now anyway.
right. But the only issue is there's some pipes sticking out, which are conceivably a safety issue if somebody were walking across the, and the erosion and
The extra stone that's put in for,
yeah. So, I mean, they're relatively minor issues, but we lose the point. And if we,
Well, I would be,
when do we hoist ourselves?
right.
I'm ready
That's
now.
what I'm saying.
That's why I'm just putting it out there for discussion.
I mean,
I keep saying I've had it. The heck with the line in the sand. I vote no. I need to make a point. We need to do something. And start with this one. We've given others, oh, well, okay. We just have to do something definitive now.
well,
And my only concern is Starbucks could care less. Wareham Retail Management, maybe they care. The 12 people who don't get paid,
they can.
they care.
No, I get that. I would be more than satisfied in addressing this with Wareham Retail Management with the daily fine.
But then we have to
If in-
issue it, and actually, the problem with fines, then we have to go to court when they don't pay.
Right.
And that's more work for Mr. Bowen to file, whatever he has to file to say they don't, they didn't collect.
So how do you,
The only way
how do you
then,
stop it?
then you shut them down. Eventually, it comes to shutting the business down.
It's the only way.
So if, we've been messing with this since what, April?
No, actually,
earlier.
last year, we sent them a demand letter in December of 2021.
Okay, so it's been a year.
It's been before us since January.
And they only acted on the dumpster enclosure because we held the permit.
Yep.
I don't know.
So if we institute the daily fine, if in fact Paul Turner can do it, and we say, okay, the clock's ticking. It's $300 a day, starting tomorrow. And the longer you wait, the worse the bill gets. And if they let it run until next December, and they haven't paid it, then at that point,
We're talking about the developer.
the developer, yes. Yes, not Starbucks, not Aspen Dental.
Well, the whole reason this happened is they have to go for their permit, Aspen Dental doesn't.
Right.
So we had that in front of us.
Yeah, but Chipotle's coming up, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, we've been talking
So,
about
so
both
we're
since the
talking
beginning.
about, we're talking about affecting 20 people's lives or 25 people's lives.
Chipotle was different because they hadn't had the paperwork done. Starbucks did
Yeah.
have the paperwork to get the permit,
Yeah.
which they held. Chipotle was on the next agenda because they had the paperwork done to renew at that point. That's why the two were separate. It was the same issue.
Yeah.
Everything happened the same. It's just that Chipotle wasn't ready, Starbucks was, it went 1-2.
Yeah.
And Aspen wasn't part of it because they don't have that permit available to
I
them.
have a recommendation. Why don't I check in with Paul Turner, the building commissioner, and see if the rescinding of the special permit will be enough to have him issue fines, or have a condition against, on the special permit, that the work has to be done, and if not, that fines are issued, and see if the building commissioner can do it under that criteria. So I would suggest you take a motion right now and say that you want the building commissioner to issue fines if possible to the Wareham Retail Management until they get their,
Until they finish, and we can send Paul, if he
and
doesn't
say
have
that a
it, we can-
modification of the special permit.
Two quick points. The town hall is closed a whole bunch of days. We're asking him to go out on a day he's closed. The town hall's closed. And what do we do if they don't do anything? I think we need to have something in place.
Well, why would he be going out when town hall's closed? Why can't he go tomorrow?
Well, you're talking every day. I would think if they say Christmas Day we're done, or the next day, or the next day. Town hall's closed. I mean, we're telling him,
Well, we're looking for an alternative to closing Starbucks. So,
I don't disagree.
so I don't think asking, asking Paul to work with us to help us not close Starbucks is really a lot to ask. So if we take a vote tonight, you talk with Paul tomorrow, he goes out there tomorrow, he confirms the punch list of stuff that's not done, and starts issuing a fine as of Wednesday morning.
Yeah, that's what we hope anyway. That is the reason why they get the work done.
I mean, we kind of we either go that route, or tomorrow night, the Board of Selectmen doesn't issue their permit, and a bunch of people are out of work.
Or we can issue the permit subject to receipt of the punch list signed off by the building director of inspectional services. So we can approve it subject to.
Subject to when, though?
That still has the potential for putting people out of work, because
Yes, it
they're,
does.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather go the fine route, because I don't want to punish the people that work for a living, and I don't want to punish Wareham Retail. I just want them to do what they agreed to do, sitting in those chairs right there.
A year ago.
Right, a year ago.
And, you know, again, I don't want to affect anybody's job, but we have to do something. And to your point, Judy, do you have to wait till your next meeting to do anything, or can do it conditionally? Then who's going to find out when they're done and go before you, or the Board of Selectmen? I got to understand how that works.
If we were to issue the permits tomorrow night, subject to receipt of the completed punch list from the Director of Inspectional Services, which meets the special permit from the Planning Board for Wareham Retail Management Company, then I can hold that in the office signed until I see that punch list. But I can also,
Can you do that alone?
yes,
Okay, awesome. I was just concerned about the next meeting of the full board. If you can do that, that's
in other
awesome.
words, okay, if town hall happens to be closed on the Thursday that they actually do this, my email is public knowledge. As long as I see the evidence that they've done what they're supposed to do, then some of us have been known to hand deliver licenses.
But we have the broader issue of people just thumbing their noses at us.
I understand that.
And finally, we're working together and we're having an effect.
Also, inspectional services in the past hasn't supported us. We have a different person there.
Yeah.
By all accounts, people I've talked to think he's doing an awesome job, and he will do an awesome job in the future. I think if you could come to a meeting and just say, hi, I'm Sam, and I know you met with him already.
I've met Paul, yeah, he's very very nice, very knowledgeable.
I hate to take a lot of his time, but each one of us can go in on their own even, or I'd like to get a rapport built with him so we can talk to him, he can talk to us. We have not had that in the past a whole lot.
No.
And quite frankly, some people in the past have just basically ignored us.
Okay, Mr. Bowen is going to be available when I told you he was.
Awesome.
Okay, and then on the 28th, he's coming in the next day because he has a police hearing on another thing.
Okay, cool. All right,
So
so
you
that part of
Can you
it,
please put that
that's
on your
done.
agenda?
Yep.
Okay, so
May I also make the suggestion that, that you invite Mr. Turner here?
Yep.
Rather than each one of you, if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if 6 of you went in for 10 minutes, that's a whole hour out of his day he
I
doesn't
agree.
have.
I stole an hour from him Wednesday.
Well, you know what I'm saying. I think it,
I agree 100%. If he's willing to do that, that's awesome.
Yeah, if he can,
I mean, if 6 of you went to see Ken, he would have lost an hour out of the day that he doesn't have to lose.
I only stole 5 minutes from him today.
Yeah, okay.
Is it worthwhile, 5 minutes though?
I keep my visit short and sweet.
No, I wasted an hour of his time last week.
Okay, so then I guess the end result, as far as Wareham Retail Management is we agree that, or that we'll vote to agree that you'll issue the permit based on the contingency that you receive a confirmation from zoning enforcement that the punch list that's still outstanding is completed.
Right, and is it Wareham Retail Management, Inc., Co., whatever? Send me something so I can sound like I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will also forward you the email. Ken has the punch list.
Yeah, I have that email too.
Is-
The one that you sent them with the
Yeah.
list?
Is that a motion?
That was a request for a motion, yes.
Is there anything we need to add, Ken or Judy?
I think that covers it.
Okay, so moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Sam Corbett, seconded by Mike Baptiste. All in favor? Sherry?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
And
Yeah, it
chair
is.
votes aye.
So now we have a unanimous vote
We have a
of the
unanimous
record.
Yep, on the record.
And Ken and Judy both agree, so I think it's something I could live with, at least for now.
Yeah, I
But
think
going
it's-
forward,
I think it's the most reasonable effort to correct the problem without adversely affecting innocent people.
I agree, but this is not the first time.
No, but I think the message is being sent.
I agree, I
So
agree.
If we hold to what we have said we're going to do, which is include him and the Director of Inspectional Services, before we issue, and if we make that plain, you know, for new businesses, it's easy, because
Nothing's open
they
yet.
don't get to open.
Right.
Okay? For somebody who's been treading the line, it's a little harder. It's harder to train a dog that's done things wrong for a while, and, you know, the one that you get before he's got all his bad habits, and it's the same thing. So hopefully the new way of our office, making sure that we've touched base with everybody, we got a checklist, you know, this long, but we haven't included
Planning,
planning.
right. Well, I think we've learned a lot from this, and if we do include planning, then we have a stopgap. And we won't go through this again, hopefully.
I can't hear you.
I asked Mr. Buckland if that was something that he was comfortable with, and in fact, he's signed off on 2 or 3 since we started the new way of doing things.
Right. No, and I think it's a good idea, because, I mean, it'll stop it from getting any further than it needs to get.
I'm going to bring something up that's really not attached to this issue, but it is. We need to stick to the rules, the Thursday noon. We had one come in at Monday. I'm voting no on that.
Which one's that?
Dos Amigos, I think. J.C. handed it in Monday at something o'clock.
For which meeting?
They were coming
Upcoming?
before us. They asked for continuance Monday, not Thursday noon. We need to hold them to it. And we need to make sure I'm voting no, because they didn't follow the rules that we set up. We can't do that anymore. And we have to send a message like this one across the board. And, you know, I vote no to make a point sometimes, but we really have to do it. And if it means they have to come back 2 weeks later, so be it. I'm voting no. I encourage other people to vote no as well. Send the message. They can come back in 2 weeks. They knew when Thanksgiving was, when they turned the calendars over in January. It wasn't a surprise. Oh, it was a short week, and thanks. They knew that in January. That's the day Thanksgiving was going to be, and they knew it was going to be a short week. Work harder the week before. They had a couple weeks. It's not really related, but I would encourage you to vote no. Make them come back. Send a message. And we've been talking about it for a long time. We need to start doing it.
And I fully support you, Mr. Corbett, as you know. The only request I would make, Ken, is if you could emphasize Sonia the importance of making sure we get those copies. If it's, I know that's extra work for her, but if it's in by Thursday noon, that's, the applicant met their objective, but we still need to get it so we can.
I think
review it.
All information.
Thursday noon, I think, is being generous. I mean, the agreement originally is that the agenda was forwarded to me for approval Wednesday, by the end of business Wednesday. So we've extended that already with the
So
Thursday
Here's a
noon.
perfect thing that we put in our subdivision rules and regs, our site plan rules and regs, our special permit rules and regs. We tell them
When the deadline is for information.
I brought it up for a month.
oh, I know, we voted on it. But we just haven't.
We haven't stuck to our guns.
I said, just so you know, Bill, just so you know, and we did that for months, just so you know, you gotta follow the rules we set. If we don't follow the rules we set, they don't mean anything.
Right. Well, 2023 is a brand new year.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Motion by Sam Corbett, second
Thank you,
by
Judy
James
and Dan,
Leach.
for being here.
All in
Appreciate it.
favor? Sherry?
All right, we'll do our best to try and get these.
Sam? Sam,
It's in the
say aye.
town's best interest.
Sam? Sam?
I'm sorry, yes.
I know you want to stay. It's
We got
early.
Another hour. We
Yeah.
got another hour.
Aye.
The last time we did this, I missed half the Patriots game.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas all. It's the last time we'll see
So
each other.
Ken,
Yep.
Ken, a clarification, so you